Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be giving you an update on the severe storms which are going to be moving throughout parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. We already have a moderate risk of severe weather over much of central and northern Wisconsin for today, and we have an enhanced risk which is even broader than that. So we're going to be going over all of that and more in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's a look at the current National Weather Service page. As you can see, we have some excessive heat watches and warnings in effect for parts of Oregon, California, and a little bit of Washington as well. We have more excessive heat warnings in parts of Minnesota, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. We have heat advisories which extend through much of the central U.S., all the way from the Gulf Coast through parts of the Dakotas and the Northern Plains. And then we have some air quality alerts which are scattered throughout the west and even in parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. We also have a few air quality alerts in effect for right now. We have a few dense fog advisories in parts of Alabama, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and a little bit of Minnesota as well. Taking a look at yesterday's continental United States extremes. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 112 degrees in Death Valley, California, with a low temperature 9 miles south of Albany, Wyoming, where they got to 35 degrees. The highest rainfall report was 3.02 inches of rain in Prince George, Virginia, and that was the highest rainfall report, and there were no snowfall reports as of yesterday. So let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center page. You can see that we have a slight risk of severe weather, which extends from Minnesota down through Wisconsin and then into parts of the Ohio Valley. So you can see it covers multiple different states where we have that slight risk in the yellow. We have an enhanced risk in the orange color for parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota as well. And then we have, just within that area, we have a moderate risk of severe weather, and that covers much of central and northern Wisconsin. So that's the area where we have the main risk of severe weather. Of course, even if you're just in that marginal risk or even just in the slight risk, you definitely still have the threat of seeing some rather convective and severe storms. Here's a look at the day one tornado outlook, and you can see that we have a 10% risk of tornadoes within parts of central and northern Wisconsin. So some tornadoes are definitely possible, and who knows, we could even see them scattered throughout parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin later today. This will be happening around the early to mid-afternoon hours, so this is going to be happening within the next couple of hours. So I'm giving you your morning update so that by the afternoon time, most of you guys would have already seen this video, so you can already be prepared for this storm system. Taking a look at the hail outlook, you can see that we're not expecting too much hail, just a 15% risk of hail in these areas. But if you were to see hail, there is the threat that you could see hail larger than 2 inches in diameter within this area of Wisconsin and Minnesota. So we do have the threat of large hail, although it doesn't look like it'll be too widespread. So we might have isolated large hail within these areas. If we look at the wind outlook, this is why they push it up to a moderate risk of severe weather in these areas. You can see that we have a 15% risk in that in that yellow area. We have a 30% risk in that red area, and then within that light purple color, that's where we have a 45% chance of seeing wind damage within central and northwestern Wisconsin. So really high threat of seeing some of those damaging winds and destructive storms within these areas. And that's because we're going to be dealing with mostly a storm system that's going to be very compact. It's going to span probably the width of Wisconsin, or maybe just a little bit less wide than that. And it'll just kind of move throughout this entire path, and for that reason, we're going to have winds that are going to be really strong. They could move up near 70 miles per hour at times, or even higher in these areas. Who knows, maybe even a stray gust up near 80 or 85 miles per hour. And with that, it does carry the risk, of course, with other severe weather elements. So, of course, we could still see tornadoes with that. We could still see hail with that, and all of that. So we could definitely see many different severe weather impacts from this event. Taking a look at the NAM 3KM model, so this is the North American model, and this is going to be timing this storm out for you guys. You can see that how we have a little bit of a cluster of heavy rainfall and storminess in northwestern Wisconsin. This would be by around 7 p.m. Central Time today, and you can see that we still have those storms rolling up through the upper Midwest and the upper Great Lakes. If we look at for 10 p.m. Central Time, you can see that we still have some of those storms rolling on through parts of northern Wisconsin. We have mainly just scattered rainfall everywhere else, but you can see it is definitely a defined line of storms. It goes about half the width of Wisconsin, so it's a fairly wide storm. It's going to cover much of the state, and it's going to move across Lake Michigan and then into this area right here. So as it does so, it will probably weaken. We have a little bit cooler waters in through parts of Lake Michigan, so that could help to kind of drown out the storm just a little bit, but still, this is going to stay fairly well put together considering how strong it is already as it's moving in parts of Wisconsin. So it's not going to weaken too much as it's moving in parts of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and etc. So it still will be a fairly strong storm by that point. This will be by 10 p.m. Here would be by 1 a.m. Central Time. And you can see that we're dealing with tomorrow early morning, we're dealing with some of these storms still impacting parts of Wisconsin. This time it happens to be the southeastern portion of the state. This line of storms and these lines of storms are going to continue to head further southeast into parts of Indiana and Michigan as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow. You can see that by right around 4 a.m. Central Time, 5 a.m. Eastern, you can see that we have a wider line of storms, and you can definitely tell that this did weaken. It was, again, originally back up through southeastern Wisconsin and moved in through parts of southern Lake Michigan, and as it did so, it did weaken and it kind of spread out a little bit. So now we have a much wider system where we're dealing with moderate or heavy rainfall. The severe weather threats have really died down by this point, so if you're looking at wanting to see tornadoes, an isolated tornado, maybe some moderate sized hail, and even some damaging wind gusts, you're going to want to go up to northern and central Wisconsin. If you want to just see the rainfall, or if you live within this area in the lower Great Lakes, then you're going to be you're going to be more in for just rainfall with some isolated lightning strikes here and there. But again, the main threat would be the downpours and also some scattered wind gusts up near 50 or 60 miles per hour. By this time, the storm has weakened quite considerably. Here to be by 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can see that by this point, again, it is weakened even more, and it's mainly just rainfall in through the lower Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley by this point. So again, we're not dealing with anything too significant after this storm passes through parts of Lake Michigan. And then moving this on even a little bit more, you can see that by 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern, we're still dealing with some of that rain scattered in throughout parts of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. So we're definitely getting along in terms of the rainfall which is impacting these areas, and it's definitely starting to move further southeast. We're seeing these storms die out even more over the span of a couple hours. Taking a look at the total rainfall, you can see that we are expecting most of that rain to be centered around northeastern Minnesota and the eastern half of Wisconsin. So this is where we're dealing with 1+ inches of rainfall and even near 2 to 3 inches or even higher in a few of those spots. We have less than an inch for pretty much everywhere else. So that includes much of the Ohio Valley into the northeast and all along the east coast. So you can definitely tell that once this moves across or it moves past Lake Michigan, you still have some heavy rainfall, but most of it is not as strong or nearly as strong as what we were previously dealing with when it was back up through the western Great Lakes. Here's a look at the CAPE values, the convective available potential energy, which spans through parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, with these really high values up near 5,000, maybe even 5,500 in a few of these areas. And we have in the parts of the Ohio Valley as well some rather high numbers, not as high definitely, but you're dealing with 1,500 to even 3,500 in a few of these spots. So we do have some areas where we're dealing with stronger levels of energy, and that could definitely help these storms kind of get fueled up and definitely it could help them move across Lake Michigan a little bit easier with not weakening nearly as much. The models, the short range models especially, have been very inconsistent. You could look at many different models. You could look at 7 different short range models and get 7 different, completely different solutions on what's going to happen for later today. Some have this strengthening a little bit more before heading through parts of Lake Michigan. Some have this not really being impacted by that crossover Lake Michigan. Others have this completely dying out, like the NAM 3KM. So we have completely different solutions. Right now, I'm trusting the NAM a little bit more just because it has more credibility than some of the other short range models. But again, we really don't have a good idea on what's going to happen after this crosses Lake Michigan. My opinion is that it stays fairly strong for maybe another hour or two, and then after that, once it heads past, I would say, central Indiana and northwestern Ohio, that's when I think it probably will start to weaken much more considerably, and it's going to turn to much more of just a rain event within these areas. Here's a look at the high temperatures for today, and you can see that we're dealing with highs getting all above 90 west of the Great Lakes. If you live within the Great Lakes, that's where you're looking at temperatures mainly in the 80s, but either way, it will be warm enough to support these storms, definitely. So nothing too shabby in terms of the high temperatures. If you're looking at the dew points, you can see that we're also dealing with dew points up near and above 70 in all of these areas. And one of the reasons this will really flourish is because we have dew points. Look at this, even getting up near 78, 79, and I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a few areas recording up near 80-degree dew points, which is very, very high. Typically, on a good severe weather day, you're dealing with some areas getting up near 75-degree dew points, and that's typically in the southeast where we get those dew points up near 75. So it's very unusual and very rare that you're going to be dealing with dew points up near 80 degrees. So that's going to be really, really humid, uncomfortable outside, and that's one of the atmospheres and environments that these storms like to flourish in, with those really moisture-ridden type of atmospheres where you have a lot of moisture, you have a very high amount of CAPE, and you have those high dew points. All of that combined really helps these storms kind of form a little bit better. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.